Deep in the heart of the GlimmerLight Forest are the Elyrion. A peculiar, pointy-eared cabal of magicians, naturalists, and animal enthusiasts. From the safety of the woods, they frolic and play with the unicorns amid the forest's many trees. So, let's talk about these odd individuals. Well, first, they're not really called the Elyrion. But we humans don't have the anatomy necessary to pronounce their language, if you'd even call it a language. And trust me, I'm not going to embarrass myself by trying. Okay, yeah, back to the Elyrion. As you can see, they very clearly differ physically from the average Polytopian. Their shiny blue hair and long pointy ears. But why? What makes them so different from everyone else? Isolation, mostly. After the conclusion of the ancient civil war, one band of Polytopians migrated into a lush forest, far away from the other tribes. There, they discovered that the forest was teeming with magical energy of unknown origin. As they built their homes in these woods, the Elyrion began to use this abundant magical essence for their own benefit. Small things like levitating objects or fire starting at first. And over time, they got better and better at controlling the forest's magic. Centuries pass, and with no contact with the outside world, the Elyrion adapted and changed to fit their surroundings. They developed ears that help Elyrian scryers find new magical sources. Their hair became blue, as a sign of their intertwining with magic, and a plethora of other small changes, leading them to become what they are today. Some Zabasi scholars have even suggested that the Elyrion aren't even Polytopians anymore, but a whole new species. Outside of the physical differences, the society of the Elyrion is completely different from that of any other tribe. Their language is incomprehensible, their societal structure is nonsensical, and their culture is baffling to all other tribes. The imperious Lirapachi stay out of their territory for fear of panicking at their extremely convoluted, often contradictory laws. It's very difficult for the Elyrion to interact with any other tribe, as the divide is so great that everyone simply ends up frustrated. But there is one thing that needs no explanation: their reverence of nature. Their long time in the forest has given them a very special appreciation for nature. To the Elyrion, every rock, animal, and tree has a soul, and needs to be taken care of. And, in return, nature rewards them with resources and protection. This symbiotic relationship with the forest, and nature as a whole, is part of the reason they didn't venture out of the woods for quite some time, as the square is a big, scary place outside their home. This is the target of their worship, the concepts of the natural world and their place in it. Trees must be hugged, animals must be fed, and it's their job to do it, even if it leads to a few disastrous results. The Elyrion do understand that, despite their best efforts, some nature must be harmed for the sake of their existence. Some trees must be chopped, some rocks crushed, and some animals hunted. Mainly fish or other lesser animals. But they've developed a system to only take what they need and function as sustainably as they can. There's a very big difference between long-term regulated forest management and wholesale deforestation for short-term gains. The GlimmerLight Forest is packed with all sorts of animals and plants, so I'll try to keep this focused on the more commonly known ones. The forest itself is primarily comprised of towering deep-root trees. Their massive trunks can provide firewood for multiple Elyrian families for weeks. They're often the homes of squirrels, robins, rabbits, and a whole host of other fauna. So, their preservation is very important. Inside the forest, you'll find sunburst lilies, which are these giant flowers that are the primary food source of the unicorns. They taste like candy, but then so does most Elyrian food. and the petals are usually eaten raw. But just don't eat too much, or your skin might begin to sparkle. Speaking of unicorns, they're quite the sight, if you can manage to behold one. Their manes shimmer in the sunlight. Their iridescent horns are stronger than diamonds. Grass grows where they step. A trail of rainbow dust follows them wherever they go, which the Elyrion allege can let you see the afterlife if you look into it. I know I've said the word majestic in previous videos, but this might be the most majesticest of them all. Unicorns are naturally attracted to locations with high concentrations of magic, making the forest the perfect spot for them as well. Some Polytopian scholars even believe that the unicorns may be smarter than the average animal, as they easily allow Elyrion cavalry to use them as mounts to aid in the defense of the forest. And only the Elyrion. Of course, if you ever wanted to see a unicorn in real life, the best place to look is an Elyrion sanctuary. These large crystalline structures house all the amenities any animal could ever ask for. Shelter, food, water, and delightful music. These are enough to attract any nearby animal. And so, sanctuaries often function as a form of zoo for Elyrion citizens, where common folk can witness the majesty of unicorns firsthand. What people don't know is that sanctuaries are really just fancy tourist attractions, and the more animals one has, the bigger it can get, and the more tourists it can bring in. You want to pet the unicorns? Well, that'll be a few stars, thank you. Related to the unicorn, or a different form of unicorn. No, wait, hold on. Something else to find is the curiosity of what we know as a Polytaur. Not exactly a technical term. Polytaurs are half-animal, half-Polytopian hybrids that you can find roaming around Elyrion cities. Where do they come from, you might ask? And the answer is simple. The Elyrion use their magic to enchant animals into these creatures. Any animal will do. But the Elyrion tend to prefer larger animals, such as unicorns, fantrix, hooks, or etc. Polytaurs are useful for all sorts of things, including as household pets, cheap labor, parts of the military, and so forth. They're not exactly as smart as a Polytopian, but they are smarter than their base animal, putting them somewhere around semi-sapient? They're smart enough to understand and execute basic commands. Let's just put it at that. Lastly, before you ask us, yes, the animals in question willingly become Polytaurs, and can refuse if they so choose. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's talk about the fire dragons. They're huge, they're ferocious, and they can fly! The Elyrion and the dragons have an agreement. If the Elyrion raise their eggs for them, then the dragons will do their part in the war. And besides, dragons are also denizens of the forest, so they have their own vested interest in ensuring the invaders who wish to pillage it are routed. They use their mighty fire-breathing magic to burn enemies, and those next to them, to a crisp. Like all living things, dragons have multiple stages of growth, each with different needs. Dragons inside their eggs might not be very useful, but they can roll away from danger if necessary. Young dragons can't breathe fire just yet, but they are rather speedy, and good at hit-and-run tactics. And then, when the dragons are fully grown, they're able to uphold their end of the deal like every dragon before them, by burning things. As an interesting little fact, while they might seem scary, dragons are really kind-hearted souls, and they often dream beautiful dreams. So beautiful, in fact, that they sometimes cry in their sleep. Elyrion who sip on a cup of dragon tears are given absolutely amazing dreams for the next 3 nights or so. And getting this stuff is quite the endeavor, so it's very expensive and hard to find. Not all Elyrion are beacons of light, nature, and happiness. Referred to by outsiders as the Midnight Cult, this group of Elyrion has been swayed by the dark powers of a mystical artifact known as the Shard of Danae. With a fervor comparable to the members of the Vengirian Burzgor cult, they channel the Shard's magic to corrupt the land into a twisted version of itself, which only furthers the Shard's power, as it feeds off the magic of the nearby terrain. But what is the Shard of Danae? Rumors abound around its history. Maybe it was an old artifact left by the ancients. Maybe it fell from space. Or maybe it was a failed magical experiment by a rather determined Elyrian mage. Regardless, the shard is a large crystal that emanates telepathic calls to anyone who can hear it, offering power and rewards for spreading its influence. Does it have an end goal? Is the shard trying to accomplish something? No one knows for certain, but many Illyrian scholars believe that it might not actually have any form of will at all, but mindlessly broadcasts its lies. Since the Elyrion and dragons are both magically attuned creatures, they can hear the shard's calls, and many have been convinced that using its magic will give them unlimited control over the natural world. How do the adherents of the Midnight Cult use this magic? As stated earlier, the primary use of the shard's magic is to corrupt the landscape, which only fuels their power further. This blighted land attracts and encourages the spread of the ferocious direwolves that the Midnight Cult uses as mounts for the cavalry. Corrupted land also provides them with the necromantic strength to summon shades from the souls of the deceased, known as demons. While demons can be summoned from the grave sites of those who've died in the wilderness, the Midnight Cult are known to build crypts for the storing of Polytopian corpses. These crypts function as foci for the magical energies that can be harvested from the deceased, and later converted into resources out of thin air, with more corpses creating more magic, and thus the potential for a higher income. This is the story of the Elyrion, a people of magic and nature, where even harmony has its shadows.